All right, everyone, I think with those wonderful celebrations, we're going to get started with our Monday, September 9th Planning and Development Committee meeting. We have a quorum. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have the minutes from our last regular meeting, which was August 12th, 2013. Do I have a motion regarding the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second. To approve.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Our first item is item P1, Ordinance 98-013, granting a special use for a resale establishment. Do we have Melissa Klotz here? Okay. Oh, sorry, I don't have the right glasses on. So, this is the Zoning Board of Appeals and the city staff recommend the adoption of this ordinance granting a special use permit for the operation of a resale establishment, which I'm going to mispronounce, Minushik Boutique. The applicant has complied with all the zoning requirements and meets all the standards for a special use in the B1 zoning district. Would you like to share with us?
Most certainly. Mark Munzer, Director of Community Development. City staff and the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, recommend approval of the resale establishment. The applicant appeared before the Zoning Board of Appeals and they met all the criteria for special use. The applicant has extensive retail experience and would bring more vitality and a new business to that section of the city. And again, we recommend approval. The applicant is here for any questions.
Are there any questions from Alderman Rainey?
Madam Chair and Mark, I think it's a great use. I support it 100%. But
Alderman Rainey, can you tilt your microphone down towards you slightly?
It's totally on.
Okay, good.
I don't understand the need for the suspension of the rules, given all the work that's being required that they do. There's a lot of, unless it's already been done, it appears as though there's extensive improvements required to the building, most of them cosmetic, but some landscaping, et cetera. And that work that was described in the documents probably won't be completed within the 2 weeks, so I'm wondering why the suspension. If there's a good reason, just tell me.
Is the applicant here? Would you like to step forward?
But may I speak
Yes,
to that
Alderman Holmes,
also?
yes.
I had made that request when we met at the, after the zoning board meeting. I didn't realize that the work had not been completed until Mr. Munzer brought it to my attention tonight. But I was making that request because we had thought that they would be ready to go in at that time.
Can you share, you're Ms. Toussaint, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yes, would you like to, is the work still ongoing or has it been completed?
The work is ongoing, but it's all cosmetics. It's interior, basically decorating. But we've been suspended, so I cannot get in the building as of yet. Someone will be here tomorrow to get a permit, so that will allow us to go in and finish the work.
About the
work was going on. The work was going on without a permit? And
But that was by the landlord.
That was
not
by the landlord,
Well,
not by.
I understand,
Right.
but I mean, so I just don't understand the need for the suspension. I mean, I think not doing it all in one night might encourage that the work proceed expeditiously. It's not going to hold up the opening of the store. I mean, if you don't get the work done.
No, it won't.
Alderman Wilson?
I guess intuitively, if you're a business and you're intending to open and you do all the work and you haven't gotten permission to open the store, I would be reluctant to complete the work without knowing that you're going to be able to open. So in other words, if they're going to do all the work and put it all in, and we haven't granted the right to do the business, what if we said no? I mean, I guess that was my impression as to why they would probably need it, because the work's going on. So I understand that. And is that a concern here, or is that an issue?
No.
You're not going to approve this?
Well, I intend to approve it, but if you're the business owner and it's not been approved, one would have reservations about doing the work before it's approved.
Chicken and the egg. That's what it is. Could we have a rundown from our staff of the work that is in the
What's
documents
left to be done?
that's required?
Yes.
There is.
Why it's required?
There is some electrical work that still needs to be done. So I would say that, that's fairly substantial. The applicant did come in and meet with Mr. Murphy, the building official, last week, and they had a conversation about that. Primarily, it's the electrical work that's substantial. I would agree with the applicant that the other work to be done is more cosmetic in nature in terms of like shelving and things of that. But the stop work order still is in place.
When was that issued, the stop work?
Alderman, I don't know the exact date of that. I know it was right around when the zoning board met.
Alderman Holmes?
I was going to say also, Alderman Rainey, I think that part of the issue dealing with what the applicant was responsible for versus what the landlord is responsible for, and the electrical work and everything is the landlord's responsibility. So that is where we got hung up.
So just so I'm clear, I'm having trouble opening my file, but what is the work that the applicant needed to do?
The cosmetics.
It's the cosmetics. It's the awning.
Correct.
Right, and the planter, and
There's awnings, planters, shelving, painting.
and then the work that the landlord is required to do is
Would be the more-
build-out inside?
And they
Correct.
can't do the cosmetic work until the landlord does the other work, and that's why she can't get in to do her part.
Okay.
So that's the issue.
Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wonder, Ms. Toussaint,
Yes.
will you be prejudiced if we do not introduce and take action tonight, but rather consider it in 2 weeks at our next regular meeting? It sounds like it's going to happen. It sounds as if there's good support for this special use permit. My counsel,
If I would prefer for you to move on this evening?
we could introduce it tonight, most certainly, and then I wonder if your business will be harmed in any way if we don't issue the actual special use permit until we meet in 2 weeks from tonight to take action on it.
I would definitely prefer for everything to be approved tonight, because I would like to be open at the end of the month.
Our next meeting, when we would consider it, the next time is September 23rd. It's just 2 weeks from tonight, and I'm thinking at that point we could take action on the special use permit and approve it.
If
Just
it's
would-
necessary.
It would just mean that we wouldn't be doing the special procedures to get it all done tonight, given some work that still needs to be done. And Alderman Holmes, would you be comfortable with that, or are you?
I was just going to say, I can be comfortable with that so long as we know that you're saying that the landlord is coming in tomorrow for a permit to get the work done.
Correct.
And if that happens, then certainly we could, we'll vote on it on the 23rd, and that will be it. But I'd much rather do it all tonight, but I understand the reluctance on some of the parts of my colleagues to do that.
And we all want this to succeed, and we want
Yes.
it to happen, and,
Right.
or at least, I'm just guessing, but I think it's a pretty good guess.
Right.
Alderman Rainey?
I thought it
Well, I would never ask that this be held until the next, I mean, I want this introduced tonight so
Oh,
that the
absolutely.
wheels are in motion. No interest whatsoever in holding this up at all, just not interested in suspending the rules.
Right.
That's the only thing.
I
And so
understand.
I just can't see any downside to this.
Our normal procedure would be to introduce it tonight and then pass it in 2 weeks.
And that's all I'm asking.
And that's all we're asking.
Yeah, so the unusual procedure is for us to pass it all tonight. So if we introduce tonight and pass it in 2 weeks, that's our normal procedure.
Okay.
And then during that time, your landlord can get the work that's necessary to be done, and then you can get to work on the materials that you're going to be doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Alderman Rainey?
Yes, Alderman Nguyen, I know it's a little unusual, but this seems a little unusual. Is there any way that we can have our staff follow up with the owner to make certain that this is, on schedule? Because otherwise, it doesn't matter what we do. If you don't have the approval of after the work is done, then can't open anyway.
Yeah. Mr. Munzer is saying that, yes, the staff will be doing that.
All right, so we'll watch out for you.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
We'll be your advocate.
Okay.
All right. So is there a motion regarding this? Is there a all right. All those in favor of introducing, please say aye. Aye. Okay, so it'll be introduced on the council tonight.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, next is P2 Ordinance 99013, granting major zoning relief to establish open parking in the side side yard, at 1202 Sherman Avenue. The city staff recommends denial of the requested zoning relief to allow one open parking space in this street side yard with a 3-foot street side yard setback where 15-foot is required for parking. The ZBA found this as well in its findings for a negative recommendation of the requested zoning relief due to the proximity of the parking space to the neighboring fence, the nearby intersections of Sherman Avenue and Crane, and the lack of unique hardship that is particular to this property.
I'll move introduction.
All right. Sorry. Yes, Alderman Grover, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is, had we looked at some of the parking regulations around this residence to see whether or not there's any forgiveness for residential parking, that is, local resident parking, as opposed to competing with the commuter parking at the Dempster train station? There didn't seem to be anything in the record about what the existing parking regulations were, and if these property owners have any relief in the way of residential parking sticker or anything else. I don't know what the district is.
I don't think it's a stickered area, but I think that at least other portions of Sherman, we have the zones where you have to have an Evanston city sticker, so people from other parts of the city could come and park in the area as long as they have a city sticker. It's the whole area is parking challenged, generally speaking.
Right.
Everybody knows that. So it's the question is difficult for me. Getting another car off the street generally is, I would appreciate that. On the other hand, it as far as the surface and such, I understand the city's the staff's perspective on that as well.
I was glad to know it didn't impair our permeable lot coverage issues, but I just wondered if there was a parking regulation solution here.
I don't
It
think,
seems probably late in the game to even do this because the owner has already gone this far.
Are they here?
and-
Actually, I'd be interested in what.
is the owner here? Yes.
Yeah.
Alderman Grover, I don't know whether there is a parking restriction in the area, but I'm very familiar with the corner, and it is, the parking is tough there, but it's not impossible. And I tend to agree with the staff on this, that we should not start a precedent of permitting this type of parking in side yards. And I am also concerned about visibility issues at that corner. The Sherman takes a jog there, and people, it's remarkable how much traffic travels on Sherman at remarkably high speeds. Yeah.
And even though it may seem to others that we do it all the time, I am reluctant to second-guess the ZBA decision on this, but.
Right. And Alderman Holmes has been waiting patiently all this time, so then we'll hear from the applicant.
No, that's okay. I drove down there because I was looking at it on the pictures that had been sent to us. I had to go and look at it in terms of that and wondered if any kind of contact had been made with neighbors to talk about it, and especially since it's so close to that, if I understand it correctly, it's so close to that fence.
Yep. So actually, there are two major zoning reliefs that we're looking for, which is zoning open parking in street site where parking is prohibited, and the other is a 0-foot street side yard setback where 15-foot is required. These are the only two zoning reliefs we're looking for. Other than the 3-foot from the neighbor's fence, we have that, and also the length of the stall, we have that as well. So we have a signed letter from a neighbor that says she is fine with us using that space for parking. Now, when we moved to Evanston, we had one child. Now I have 4 kids. Life changes, right? Not that I'm trying to use that as an excuse, but it is pretty much impossible to find parking on street cleaning days, Tuesday and Wednesday, especially With 3 kids in the car, my wife drops a kid off, comes back, and we park at Jewel. I don't know when I'm going to get towed, but, that's the only open parking that we have is at Jewel. And then, she has to lug all 3 kids, and depending on weather, it gets very difficult. I mean, it's not for any commercial purpose, it's really for our convenience, so. We could do it, any changes that the city might request us to do, but I think we've, done as much as we can.
Another question.
I don't know.
Can I ask Alderman Wilson, what about around Crane and then on Elmwood, is that all restricted parking as well? Because, to go to Jewel, which is at Greenleaf, and it's awful far.
Well, yeah, and it's a big problem on the street. Like as you said, on the street cleaning days, it's very
street
dense.
cleaning,
Yeah,
well,
so
yeah.
it's
That's in every neighborhood, Joe.
right. That's in every neighborhood. So, but this as Alderman Nguyen said, it's an unfortunate and uncomfortable intersection. People come, they race down Sherman. You've got the wall on the one side.
Right.
People come, flying down there. I went to the bike and roll event, and actually multiple people came up to me and were talking about that street and looking at ideas for improving the traffic flow. So I'm not as concerned about the sight lines and pulling out and that being a safety concern, but I don't know. It's a tough call. It's a precedent we generally don't want to set. I don't want to generally set this precedent, but on the other hand, they don't have a garage. There's no opportunity for a garage. It's an oddly situated house on an odd corner at an odd intersection. So I can appreciate their need for this. If I'm putting it on a balance, I guess I would say I'm slightly leaning towards letting them do it because, again, it takes another car off the street. It is a very unique, with the way Sherman jogs over there, it's a very unique kind of, unfortunate
Within
area.
3 houses, we actually have curb cuts that have been.
Could you speak into the mic more clearly?
Sorry, within 3 houses, off our street, there are at least 4 curb cuts that have been approved, at some point in time.
Yeah,
So-
a number of the houses have driveways.
I realize this is an unusual question, but have you looked at renting a parking space for the extra car in the neighborhood?
I have 1 car.
Oh, you only have 1 car?
Oh,
Okay. Right, I didn't understand that. Whose light did I just turn off? Jane, Alderman Grover?
The hard part for me is this is a permanent solution.
Yeah.
It stays with the property, and there's no way to say, you can only use this curb cut and car pad if your family has 4 children or whatever. That's the hard part, is that it becomes a permanent addition to the landscape, to the neighborhood, in contravention of, obviously, our zoning and the ZBA decision.
Another possible solution is if you speak with your alderman and we look into having the possibility of having a residential sticker on one side of the street in the neighborhood. We'd have to do a parking study to really understand that, how that would impact the community. And I am also very reluctant to set a precedent by doing this. I've been on the council for a number of years, and as I was telling Mr. Munzer, I can only remember the council approving 1 parking pad in a side or a front yard, and I believe it was for a situation where someone had a disability. I think that we'll be inundated with requests, and I live only 2 blocks from you, so I recognize how difficult parking can be.
And we're the only house with that was split up. I don't think there was any other house that's been split up, right?
Split up.
Split up meaning it used to be one lot, and then
Right.
they made 809 Crane
Right.
Street as another house, and 1202 Sherman as another house. So
Oh, there are a number of those nearby. I can think of 3 right now. So I do think there are possible other, maybe a parking study perhaps to understand what the use is there. That's a possibility, but I would be reluctant to, because of this. Okay, Alderman Wilson, then I have Alderman Fisk and Alderman Rainey.
Thank you. And it is another challenge. Again, parking in this whole area continues to come up, and I actually plan to have a meeting in the next month or so for not quite this neighborhood, but another aspect of the neighborhood. But it's a block off of the commercial area too. So in having conversations with the people, huge amount of pushback on making it resident only, because again,
Okay.
you're going to have a big negative
Right.
impact on the businesses, the bakery, and there's not enough metered parking there. So that's not a great solution. My inclination tonight, we've got pictures, but I don't, and Alderman Holmes, I appreciate you going by, and I've been by a lot, and I'm very familiar with it. My inclination is to introduce tonight, and maybe staff can get us some better perspective views of what this looks like and what the intersection looks like, so it's a little easier to understand. And then maybe include in that, what the restrictions are specifically, so, we can evaluate that a little more
And we can
closely.
ask the parking department just to go out and do a count
Yeah.
to see what the parking levels are. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded, so it will be introduced tonight, and we'll come back in 2 weeks then. Thank you very much.
You want Alderman Fisk and Alderman Ra-
Oh, I'm
Alderman
sorry,
Fisk and Alderman
I
Rainey.
apologize. Alderman Fisk? Okay, Alderman Fisk, and then Alderman Rainey. I apologize.
Well, I had two questions. First of all, are you renting the house? Or you own the house? There was
I own the house.
There was some reference to a tenant or a landlord or something. Okay. Wanted to make sure about that. The other thing is that it happens to be in my ward where we had the front yard parking that was definitely for a disability, an elderly person who could not access their house except for being able to be as close as possible to the front steps. The other thing that's a concern for me is when you see these curb cuts for this type of use that does not lead to a garage, you've got to understand that you're really removing 2 parking spaces from the street. Your curb cut parking space, and then 8 feet beyond the curb cut, where no parking is allowed, and that's, I believe, a standard in our code. So it's not just 1 space; you're removing 2 spaces. And if I were a neighbor, I would be very concerned about the loss of those 2 spaces on the street. It is a tough intersection. It's right now, it's not something that I can support.
Alderman Rainey?
Well, I'm just wondering if our staff can come back with some options for this family. I mean, they're taxpayers, there's no place for them to park. He's only got 1 car, which is really very unusual. I'm thinking permeable parking. I understand what you're saying about the curb cut. I'm really inclined to vote in favor of this, but I understand everybody's concerns. But there has to be a solution to his problem. And I believe completely that the parking district is not going to be the answer to this specific problem at all. So, just
Okay. The staff has direction. All right, thank you. Next, P3, approval of vacation rental license for 2353 Ridge Avenue. City staff recommends approval of a vacation rental license for the property located at 2353 Ridge Avenue. The property is a single-family residence owned and operated by Stephen and Margaret Rom. The vacation rental meets all the standards and procedures for license approval. This is for action. Is there a second? All those, is there a discussion? Are the Roms here? Could you step forward? I think Alderman Fisk, would you like to ask them a question?
I'm just wondering if they can describe the plans for the use.
Yes. We live in the home. I've just recently retired, and our son has moved on. So there's a bedroom with a bath, and we would like to have the flexibility of renting that out, on a nightly basis. We live there. We're going to remain living there. I do understand the issues that existed, and that, you know them in much more detail than I do, but I do understand that. But we live there. We have no intention of having people who are going to keep us from sleeping at night. So,
Is this more a B&B than a vacation rental? That's what I'm wondering.
no, we're not going to give people breakfast because there's.
But you're talking about just renting out a room
We are talking about only renting out a room.
while you're on the premises.
Right, we are. And so, yes, there is a little bit of complexity there. It's not the whole house that we would be renting out. It is one room in our home for no more than 2 people.
And your neighbors, you haven't heard any negative comments from your neighbors?
I have not.
Okay.
We passed out with the notice, a little letter sort of describing what it was we were planning on doing, which seemed to be a good thing about this, that it got us to do this, which I wouldn't have done otherwise. So we wrote to everyone and, asked if they would call us if they had, considerations or concerns.
Yeah, I have to compliment you because the difference between this and the long discussions we were having earlier about vacation rentals involved folks who were not present in their house and where they were just turning their houses over to relatively unknown people. So
I believe that's
it's
the big
fine.
difference.
Yeah, so you'll be there and
We're there
and you'll be responsive to your neighbors if there are any concerns that come up and it's good to have your son. Your son, now you're using his room. Good way to move our kids on. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to also thank you for going through the process. You're the first ones to do it. I've just put this in place not too long ago, and it's very good to see that people are willing to do it. So we really appreciate that.
Well,
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right. Now, we have an item for discussion, PD1, Bed and Breakfast Establishment Distance and Ownership Requirements. The question tonight, I understand, is that this has to be referred back to the Plan Commission, and so is the issue whether it should be or whether we should do this?
Yeah, I mean, you have the option if you want to refer it or not, but because it's a change to the zoning ordinance, if you do decide to do it, then it has to go to Plan Commission and then come back to you.
Okay, but if it was a reference from one of us, wouldn't it go directly to the Plan Commission?
I believe so, yes. Yes.
It was a reference. It was a reference from me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that actually it should probably already just go to the Plan Commission. I don't think we need to discuss it here, do we?
I move
Corporation
that we
Council?
send it
Okay.
on to the planning commission.
Okay. All right. So it'll go on to the, Alderman Rainey.
Say something about the business of the homeowner being the overseer. I'm thinking, I have a big house, I'm thinking of doing a bed and breakfast in my house, but I'm thinking you couldn't have a worse manager than me. So I'm thinking, what would be so wrong to hire a person who has that experience to manage your bed and breakfast? The issue I'm bringing up is the requirement that the owner be the operator. And I would like the Plan Commission to thoroughly vet that idea of not requiring the owner, a 1% owner, a 10%, any kind of owner. Nobody's going to own mine.
Let me
But
ask-
I would just like the thought to be placed on their agenda of why require the owner if the owner is not as competent as a manager that you would hire.
Well, my question is, Alderman Rainey, would you be still living in your home as you operate it as a bed and breakfast?
It would depend on the rates. I'm not sure.
All right. Okay.
But the manager would have to live there. I mean, that would be a requirement. I have no problem.
Right. See, I mean, I could see that perhaps you don't want to manage it, but if you lived there, you'd still be present on the premises. I mean, we shouldn't take up the time.
Okay, I'll still live there. But I just
I
think
mean, I
we ought
can
to
see
think
separating
about
the two
that
as long as the
requirement.
owner, I mean, from my standpoint, I want the owner to live there.
I think that
majority owner
requirement
to
is
live there.
onerous on an owner, because there's a lot of work involved in managing a bed and breakfast, if you do it correctly.
No, I was saying I would be willing to separate the two jobs as long as you lived there.
Let's hear from them. That's
Okay,
all I'm
sure.
saying. I don't want to beat it
Alderman
to them.
Fisk, and then Alderman Grover.
That's fine. I don't think we should be having a discussion tonight if it's going to be at the Plan Commission. I can answer your question, though, Alderman Rainey, but I'll let the Plan Commission do that.
Okay.
Alderman Grover?
I would love to also include in the Plan Commission's discussion alternative corporate structures that could be owners of a bed and breakfast and what makes sense to bed and breakfast owners. So,
All right, so does staff have direction?
Understood.
Okay. We don't have any communications, I don't think, and is there a move?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. All right. And the council meeting will start in 5 minutes.
Oh, give us 10.
Pardon? 5. 10 minutes.
Thank you.